from high school. Here's still the small towns, all American just like you. Here's still my family, to the place I was born and raised. Well, living the good life, baby, is there any other way? Here it is now. Hey.
What's up, everybody? We are back with another episode of the BeAlive podcast. You know what I love about this thing is it continues to evolve. Every single week, we're trying to add something to it. The original onset of this was to just tell you what's going on, tell you what's happening in our world, what the business is up to, and just all the things that are going down inside the BeAlive world. And we kind of live by these three core values: inspire, protect, explore. We want to inspire you to chase your passions. We want to protect the places we play, and we want to be adventurous and explore and storytell and be authentic to that entire world. So those are the three things that we live by. And it's been fun having different guests on here, getting some of the feedback and the comments and things like that. I get a lot of stuff in my DM saying that they enjoy the business stuff. So we're going to continue to keep going down that path, and we're going to have amazing guests like my one today, which I'll get to in just a second. But we're very excited to have that growth as a business and continue to push forward on that front. So a couple updates as we go. I just got back from Kodiak. Oh my goodness. I got out of the box for a little bit, and let me tell you what, I needed it so badly. I didn't realize how bad I needed it, but incredible trip. Our company went, Jason, Brown, Casey, myself, and Ilya, a new camera guy that we've been working with and field producer. And we went up there with several reasons. Keefer Brothers, we went up to do some filming. We also did some filming for Winchester in a very new product that's coming out that we can't talk about right now, which is super exciting. And we did some testing, some field testing. And I got to tell you, just getting back out in Alaska was so key. Just reminded me that we have to stop for just a second, and you gotta smell the roses. You gotta stop and just look around you, look up every now and then, and just realize how precious life is and how amazing it can be when you get outside the box. And I was able to do that. So it's an amazing trip. We're going to do a podcast about it. I'm not sure if it's going to be on the Bush Savvy podcast right now, or if Casey and Jason are going to come on here, or both. We might have both, but we're going to do a recap, and I would look for the Keefer brothers to start putting out a bunch of stuff on that. Successful hunt, went in for blacktail, ducks, and then also got to do a little fishing. And I'm telling you, when I say we got the Alaskan Slam, we got the Alaskan Slam. We caught king salmon, halibut, lingcod, Pacific cod, humpback whales. We didn't catch one, but we saw them. Brown bears of Kodiak, which, you know, the famous brown bears of Kodiak, just some absolute Volkswagen with fur, giant 11-footers, which is just amazing to see in itself. So all the way around, we literally had the trip of a lifetime. Harlequins, widgeons, teal, you name the bird, we saw it as well. So just a great trip. Can't wait to share it with y'all. It's going to be an episode of Winchester Life. It's also going to be on the Keefer Brothers YouTube channel coming up, and you'll see tons of reels popping up soon. So if they already haven't aired by the time this podcast airs, check it out. It was Kodiak. It was an incredible trip. Couple other things to talk about. Bush Savvy. Bush Savvy gear is available. The hats are out. They are sweet. Casey did a great job with that. They're available right now on the store on BeAliveActive.com, or on the store. If you go to KeeferBrothers.com, you can click on the little link there. Boom, take you right to it. Now, if you're going to go over there and you're going to buy some gear, you're automatically going to be entered into a really cool thing that we're doing. We are doing a sweepstakes, and we are excited about this. Casey and I have been talking about it for a long time. We were able to work with Midwest Custom Hunts. They've got an incredible operation down there, giant deer, and we're doing a sweepstakes. You have a chance to enter to win, to come with us to camp for a giant whitetail, and all you got to do is go to KeeferBrothers.com, click on that link, and for every dollar spent is an entry. and you get up to 100 of those, which is going to be really, really cool. So you can go over there, buy some hats, buy some stickers, and for every dollar spent, you get entered to win, and we're going to pull that winner here in a couple of months, and you're going to go with us next year. And then here's the really cool part. We worked with our partners at Cabela's, and we're going to offer a gear package. So if you win, you're going to get a complete gear package from them, and it lists and outlines everything in the rules and regulations. But we're talking from head to toe. You're going to get outfitted by Cabela's and Bass Pro Shops, which is going to be incredible. And the next thing is, once you sign up, you're going to be in an email chain, an email flow, and you're going to get an email from Reveal. And if you add your email to that chain, then you are going to get added to the cell cameras on our properties in Missouri. That's going to allow you to see the bucks that you could have an opportunity at shooting. That's going to be pretty exciting. So you're going to be sitting there getting those in your Reveal app at all times, seeing these big bucks in Missouri, and you could have a chance to win. And so head on over to KeeferBrothers.com, click on the sweepstakes, go support, buy some gear, and you get a chance to win this amazing hunt at Midwest Custom Hunts with Casey and I next year, 2025. It's going to be a blast, especially because we're coming off a dropped. So we'll be coming off a dropped and right into the sweepstakes and right into the hunt. So it's going to be a blast. As I talk about Cabela's, we've got a few DMs on this, but yes, we are with Cabela's. We've switched to Instinct, and there's a really cool story coming on that. We're going to talk about, we were part of the Instinct line build, the original launch of Instinct. And over the years, between acquisitions and all the things that have happened, Instinct kind of went away for a little bit, and now it's back with a vengeance. And Casey and I are super proud to be a part of that team, to be face of that, and to start to look at how we can do some product integration and bring you guys an amazing quality product that performs in the field at a price that matters, especially this day and age, at a price that counts. So stay tuned for more Instinct updates, and we'll make sure to get you all that information if you're looking for it. But I've had a lot of people say, what coat is that you're wearing? Well, it is the brown Instinct coat, and I can send it to you. So if that was you that was looking for it, there's about 5 of you that DM me. It is an Instinct coat, and I can send you the link. So there's that. All right, so getting on with the podcast, there has been some really fun guests, as I mentioned earlier, and we're excited to continue to expand this. And I want to try and bring value every week with some sort of story, education around building a business, what it takes, and what we do to have that BeAlive mentality. And I'm excited to share this one with you today. My guest is actually my business coach. She's an incredible entrepreneur, and she's an incredible keynote speaker. She has her own podcast called The Confident Podcast. She works with our entire team, and just a downright amazing gal. She has done some incredible things. I love working with her. Her name is Lisa Tarkington, and I'm excited for you guys to meet her and really get a sense of what she's about. She has an incredible story of how she started her business. She has an incredible story of what it takes to actually run a business, to get into this world, and what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And she's constantly working with people and coaching them from an executive level, and it's just amazing to see what she does. So I'm excited to have that. And one of the things that I was listening recently that I just wanted to share that I think we're going to dive into a little bit today is the soft skills versus the hard skills. This is a pretty fun topic to talk about, and one that I know I've had a personal journey on. I used to blow a Chris-sized hole through the wall and just stomp on people's heads to get what I wanted. And over the course of time, I've realized that it's the soft skills that actually are the hardest skills, the ones of kindness and empathy. And there's a way to do things that just have this softness about it, but yet you get your point across. And I think it's been something that I've been working on for a long time, is the soft skills versus the hard skills. And I think it's incredible. I think the soft skills are 100% harder to do than the hard skills. Anybody can step on someone's throat just to get a result. But to be soft, to be kind, and have empathy in today's world, in today's age, you got to have the right mindset, and you got to be okay with yourself first in order to have that. And that's something I've been working on. So I can't wait to sit down and talk to our guest, Lisa Tarkington, about that. And we're going to probably dive into it. I got to tell you, every time I talk to Lisa, it's like a therapy session. So at the end of the day, I have a feeling you're about to listen in to a 1 hour therapy session between Lisa and myself talking about business. So thanks for all the support, everybody. Continue to watch all the stuff that we're putting out there. We're very excited about what's happening. We'll continue to put amazing brands out there. And let me tell you this, if you're a creator and you're listening to this and you have an idea for a brand, or you just don't know how to make that next leap to make it actually something, get a hold of us, because we're absolutely going to bring that to life. So that's what's going on in our world right now. And I got to tell you, after the break, we're going to meet up with my guest of the hour, Lisa Tarkington. All right, adventurers, whether you're camping, fishing, hunting, or just enjoying the great outdoors, you need to get that gear that can keep up. That's why we choose and trust Grizzly. It's built tough for every adventure with unmatched durability and performance. Their products are perfect for your next trip into the wild. Plus, they're made in the USA and they come with a lifetime warranty. So why would you settle for anything less? I got to tell you, I have been using Grizzly products for years. I have the original cooler, still ticking today, and they have just moved into the hunting blind market. And I got to tell you, that is the most fantastic hunting blind I have ever seen. I'm very excited to use that this fall. From drinkware to bags, you name it, Grizzly has it all. They're an amazing brand, and they support the outdoorsman. More importantly, they are built to last. So check out grizzlycoolers.com. That's grizzlycoolers.com's Forge Your Own Trail. If you're looking to elevate your outdoor adventures, you've got to check out Mountain Ops supplements. Whether you're hiking, hunting, or hitting the gym, Mountain Ops has you covered with top-notch performance-driven products. Their supplements are designed to enhance your endurance, strength, and recovery, keeping you at peak no matter the challenge. Personally, I've got to tell you that my favorite is Ignite. Every single morning I start out with Ignite. It's an energy, it's a focus. It's definitely my go-to. I also love their ammo protein for lunch, especially in the to-go packs. Guys, I've been with them literally since the beginning, and I got to tell you, I would not choose any other supplement. So why wait? Head on over to mountainops.com. That's MTNOPS.com, Mountain Ops, and use the code Keefer, Keefer, for 20% off your order. That's Mountain Ops. Conquer more. All right, let's talk about Bass Pro and Cabela's. Wherever your adventure takes you, count on Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's to make it memorable. I know I've been doing that for over 20 years as an incredible partner, Bass Pro and Cabela's, and not to mention a vacation destination. If you have never been to one of these Bass Pro and Cabela's, load up the family. Make it a trip. I'm telling you, between the aquariums and all the fun stuff they have there, not to mention the top gear on the planet, Bass Pro and Cabela's, get your family outfitted with the right gear with premium brands like Worldwide Sportsman, Ascend, Redhead, Natural Reflections. They got it all. They got all the apparel and gear to make it your best adventure ever. So stop by today to one of their kind shopping experience stores, or you can also shop online. I've done it a lot, more than I'd like to admit. BassPro.com and Cabela's.com. See for yourself at Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Your adventure starts here. I'm really excited about this guest today. This one is interesting because we work together on a business level, and it's been a fantastic journey. Can't wait to tell you a little bit about that. But we have a business and leadership coach. She's also a keynote speaker. She's also a podcast host, and just an all-around badass. So I've got my special guest today, Lisa Tarkington.
I love being called a badass.
You're welcome.
So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Great intro.
All around badass. I've been able to work with you for a little bit now,
Yeah.
and it has just been tremendous to do. So as a business coach, this is where Lisa and I have this relationship. It comes in is she's working with our company and helping out, across the board. All of our kind of executives and people have time with you. If I had enough money to pay you as to what they actually say in those things, I would, but I don't think you're going to give it up.
Never,
Yeah,
ever.
yeah.
That is my number one rule.
That's the
Yes.
number one rule. Yeah, exactly. Well, we're going to air some laundry today because from my side, we've had some amazing conversations in just building a business. And I think by the end of this, you'll realize the value that Lisa brings as a business coach. And you've been through it. You're an entrepreneur yourself.
Yeah.
You're growing. But it's just exciting to kind of see your journey, where you're headed. And at the same time, kind of we're on that same level of like growing. And so we've really been able to work together. So welcome to the BeAlive
Thank you.
podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited to be chatting about all these things because sometimes people don't get to see the behind the scenes.
That's the thing, right? Is like everyone just sees the first, like they see it now, but they didn't see it 15 years ago.
Yes.
Right? So, because by the time it gets to a point where everybody gets to see it and go, oh, I want to do that, they don't realize that it's 15 years of grinding to get there, right? So.
Totally. And that's just something like I've had really struggled with, to be honest. It's like people now say like, you're doing an amazing job.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, but like, where were you all those years with the tears and like trying to figure this out and make like really hard decisions?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Well, before we get started, I have to do this. We got our Grizzly cups and our Lazy K bar, so we're dialed in.
All right.
This is a Montana native situation, so I got to start with a cheers.
Okay,
so
cheers.
Cheers to the morning whiskey. It's always a good way to start. Yes. It's got a little
kick to it.
Got a little zip. Got a little zip sauce, but that's all right. It gets the blood flowing for the conversation. So anyway, all right. So in order for people to kind of understand where we're going, I want to set the stage, right? I want to go back to Lisa Tarkington prior to what you are today, what we just talked about, the 15 years ago. Yeah. Give me the story. How do you get into such a niche field?
Yeah.
Like what makes you go, I want to be this coach. I want to do this. But also like, what are those trials and tribulations in the beginning that maybe a lot of people don't realize actually happen? So give us a background.
I'll take you guys back to college days. So I went to Michigan State University. So go green to anybody that's Michigan State grad.
I'll allow it right now. I'll allow it.
Just for this podcast. And during that time, I just, I was always told I was a leader my whole life. Didn't really understand the qualities of a leader, at that time. Was working in marketing and communications, and I got a job with a corporation at the time. Was loving my career, really loved the people aspect of it, and honestly, what made me stay for so long was the people. I wanted to help all these people because I was always the person that they came to for everything. But at that time, I also knew that I was called to do something different, and that was like a weird moment for me of like, I have this stability. Am I really going to give it up to do something that scared me like to death, honestly, like scared me, didn't know what I would be able to do without that stability of insurance and 401k matching, like all of those little things. And so it really came down to a point in my career where I hit burnout, where I just knew like, this isn't normal, what I was feeling. I didn't want that for other people. And I just knew that I needed to make a change with that. So I first started a nonprofit. So that's really where I got started. Is I ran a nonprofit called Self Love Beauty. It's now called Lead. So that's where it started. And at that time, I'll never forget running a half marathon up in Traverse City, looking at my bank account, seeing $25. $25, being like, what am I doing, right? Like, can I do this? And just like, remember being out partying with friends, honestly, and just being like, guys, I have $25 in my bank account. Like, why did I do this, right?
It's a moment. It's a sobering moment, for real.
I'll never forget that moment. And it was really like a moment of like, I need to be fully in because if I really want this, like I got to go all in. So I got a part-time job to pay some of the bills. Not gonna lie, like while I dealt with it, because I had a mortgage and I had a dog and I had all those types of things. You had
necessities you need.
I didn't have another income. Like I wasn't married at that time. And so like, I think about that too of like, it was me. Like I didn't have anything to rely on. So then fast forward, was running the nonprofit full time, really took that leap, got rid of that part-time job. COVID hit within 1 month of me doing it full time. I'll never forget that. And I remember crying to my mom, like on the phone, being like, I can't do this. And she goes, yes, you can. What's making you believe that? And so we had this whole conversation and I was like, I can do this. And then I just continued to believe in myself. And during that time, I also had wanted to become a business life coach for years. And so I went back to school, University of Pennsylvania, for social impact, got a degree from Coactive and the International Coaching Federation to become a coach.
Love that.
And so that really is what sprang me into doing what I do now, which is coaching. So I still run my nonprofit, but coaching is also just something that like I really fell into based off of my skill set, what I wanted to do for other people and the impact. But it wasn't always an easy road to get there, right?
So you bring it. So you had. So people are always telling you're a leader, but what you don't realize is you can actually take that and turn it into something good. Like you can take those skill sets that you didn't recognize as a leader, and then say to other leaders, "Hey, let me help you through some of this." So undeniably, your mom kind of coaches you through essentially becoming a coach, which is interesting, right?
Well, it's funny now because my mom will call me and say, hey, I need you to coach me.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like, okay, that will be $1 million, right?
Yeah.
Like we joke all the time because she just has like,
Yeah.
I coach her 24/7 now because she had to talk me through like starting to believe in myself a little bit. And also like they saw something in me that maybe I didn't at that moment. Like I visualized it, right?
Yeah.
Like I saw it, but like I had so many hurdles in front of me from a financial standpoint that really scared me, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's what probably one of the biggest hangups that I have people that'll come up to me and they'll say, I want to do this. And I'll say, so what are you doing now?
Yeah.
And then you hear a lot of that, which is, well, on nights and weekends, I'm doing it. And then, but I'm not seeing any growth. I'm not doing this. And it's like, okay, understanding that you got to start somewhere, right? Nights, weekends, second jobs, third jobs, that's where it starts. Yep. But at some point, you've got to take the leap because there's no other option, right?
Yes.
Like when you have those other options, I don't know that you go as hard because you're trying to figure it out. But when you get one break, recognize the break and then take that. So you go from part-time to I'm going all in.
Yes.
You have to make that jump, don't you?
Yes.
At some point?
I think anybody has to. And like, I will tell anybody, like I was talking to someone the other day and they were like, I really wasn't scared. And I'm over here like, well, I was. Like, I was so scared to make that because also, I'm not going to lie, I had that comparison game still playing for me a little bit. I'm watching my friends and what they're making and the lifestyle that they get to live. And I'm just like trying to pay my bills. Yeah. I didn't get to go on vacations that year. I didn't get to do all these things. But I think what really level-setted me across it was I wanted to make an impact.
Yeah.
Right? I wanted, and I also saw the future, like as an entrepreneur, you visualize a lot, which sometimes is good and bad, as my team likes to tell me. Yeah. But like, I think that that's also had to like just be part of it. Is like, I know this is where I need to go. Yeah. And how I want to help people.
Yeah. Well, I can definitely relate to the visualization, as you know, from I call them therapy sessions when I'm with when I'm with Lisa. Is you know, we get an hour and all of a sudden, like I felt like at the end of it, I'm like, well, thanks for listening. You know, and a lot of it is that, right? It's listening and understanding where it's at. But yeah, from a visualized standpoint, I think if you have that gift or that type of skill, it's hard sometimes to back it down into like one step at a time because you can see things 6 months out, 9 months, 12 months, and you know what it'll be. You're trying to put it together, and that can be confusing if you don't wrangle it and understand. Like when you go to somebody and you say, this is what it's going to be in 9 months, and they're like, they can't compute it, and then it becomes a little bit of a riff, right? So that's been hard for me, is to understanding like that visualization of where we're going to go to how do I control that and actually deliver them know it's going there, but deliver it in a way that makes sense.
Yeah. Right? And I'll share when I first started coaching, or before I started coaching, I was running a nonprofit. I had a team and I had to do that, right? Like I had to figure out how to communicate. And I did not do well with that. Like full transparency, like if you would have met me 15 years ago, I was not the best leader because I didn't know how to communicate that. And also I never gave myself breaks, but like everybody else took breaks. Like I was still working my nights and my weekends and all of that kind of stuff. So I've had to really like level set with myself on like, what are the expectations I'm putting on myself and others, you know? Yeah.
So what are some of the other obstacles? I mean, working with all the leaders that you do, what are some of the obstacles you think people put in their way of growth? Like obviously like visualization's one thing. It's not really an obstacle, but it's like, it's something that's there. But what do you think are some of the common obstacles that people have that they're like, this is prohibiting your growth. You've got to get over this thing, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything specific that comes to mind that you think of as like, it's pretty common?
Well, I would say number one is confidence within yourself. Like hands down, that's the number one thing. And people still sometimes struggle when I say confidence because it's still kind of a softer word. Yeah. And you can't visualize it all the time. So people hear confidence, they're like, yeah, that's true. But like, okay, great, I'll put that in the back burner, right? Until I actually need it, but you need it all the time. I say that that's one thing. And then honestly, the other one is just communication, like hands down. You know, I struggled a lot with that in my first career of just like, how do I communicate what I'm trying to say? I have all these different personalities I'm working with. Like, how do I do those? And I think that those are two hurdles people struggle with growth. Yeah. And then I think I'll just share another one too, is that I think we all know where we want to go, or sometimes we don't, right? Like it's kind of part of this journey. But I think, what are the skills that I need to get to the next level? And then how do I hone in on that? Like I remember a feedback session I had back in my corporate days, and I remember getting this feedback and I was struggling with it, and it was kind of about like how I communicated to certain people and things. And I didn't have that self-awareness to know like how I need to make that change. But I also didn't have the leader that was like, here's the steps.
Yeah, here's how you get there.
This is how you do it. So I think it's those things too. It's like, it's a two-way street between a leader and an employee, I'd say.
No, I think those are fantastic things. I mean, just from personal experience, and you have, first of all, you have the Confident podcast.
Yes.
So that's a big one. So I want to make sure that everybody, if you want to hear more, Lisa, you got to check it out, because I think it's awesome. Just they're half hour, you're in it, you're just on the mark, and you're saying, here's some things to take away, and there's some great takeaways. We'll get into some of them later on, but I think. So going back in our conversations and some of the things that we've gone through, and the reason I bring this up is I share it with everybody because there's a lot of stuff that we're going through right now that's pertinent to the times of like growing a business, right?
Yeah.
And I guess I go back and I look at, I never set out to be the 3-letter word of CEO. That was not something I ever set out to become, right?
Yeah.
Now I get this thing, I don't even know what it means. Like I literally don't know what it means, but I would say, in order for me to be good at it, I had to learn it, right? And you have to go the extra mile. So there was things that I felt were, for me, super uncomfortable. I never studied. I never listened to podcasts. I never read books. I never did any of that. I just did what I did, right?
Yeah.
But do you think that that's kind of like in leadership, one of the next levels is like leaning in, those people that are leaning in and actually continuing to strive forward on all of that stuff? Do you find that as kind of a quality of most good leaders moving forward? Is that something that you would kind of point out?
Yes, hands down. But I would say it's a twofold. So it's the soft skills. It's like the communication, but what is the type of communication style that you want? Like, can you have hard conversations, conflict resolution, like all of those things?
Yeah.
And then I also think it's like the hard skill of like, what's the actual skill of that role that needs to be, like you have to have both.
Yeah.
But to your point about just growth in general, I mean, I've had a coach my whole life.
Yeah.
I have two now, right? Like I have them for different reasons and they're what helped my career.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's the personal growth, and it's really uncomfortable because the hardest part is you have to go internal.
Yeah.
It's all internal. It is not like, you can't point fingers. You can't say that other people are doing things. You have to look internally and be like, what do I need to do? And that's tough.
It is tough, but I think I've found, and maybe you've had the same experience. Do you find that there's a weight lifted off you a little bit when you raise your hand and say, it's me? Like, you know what I mean? So I don't know how to explain that, but like when something's going and I realize like, okay, that's on me. Before I might have fought that to the nth, not like I would just go and be like this. Now I'm like, that's on me. Let's move past it. There's like almost a weight, like, I recognized it was me that did it and I'm good. Like, let's now figure out how to move past it, versus before I might have just stayed on it because I was like, it's not me. It's not me. It's not me. No, it's that. And it just became, festered, right?
Yeah,
Do you think there's something about just kind of like letting it go?
Yeah. Well,
internally?
and I think what you said is perfect. So you have to get there first.
Yeah.
So I call it a me problem. So whenever I'm struggling on my team about communication, I'll bring up something and say, I think this is a me problem.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure, do you guys have any concerns with anything? And they'll laugh and be like, yeah, that's definitely a you problem. And I'm like, I know, I'm working on this, but like, I'm glad we're all on the same page. I'm working on this, and I'm just honest about it with my team. And we joke about it now because like my team has a joke that you can't bring up a new idea because Lisa will run with it. So we had a new hire recently and she had all these great ideas and they looked at her and said, do not bring that up to Lisa because she will be so excited. And it's a joke because they know that like I care so much and want to grow with it. Like
I get it.
It's become like in a good way. But to your point, like I've noticed, I've had to do a lot of reflection on like, when change can be hard for me sometimes, especially when I'm letting go of the reins. And so I've had to really work on like, this is a me problem. I just need you to do X, Y, Z. And then I promise like the reins will come off a little bit, but I'm just honest about it now. But in the past, I think I would have been like, just kind of asking questions and doing it kind of like in a way that I was trying to push them in a certain way, but they didn't understand why. Because I was too scared to tell them why. Right. Or I wasn't willing to look internally and be like, yeah, you're the problem. You know?
No, I've had my fair share of those conversations with myself along the way, no doubt. Just like, okay, I think you're the issue, but you've got to figure out a way to navigate through this issue because I vehemently believe in the direction.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure I'm conveying that correctly, because the way I understand it is different than maybe a teammate would understand it, right? And so then the frustration of like, I can't, why do you not get this? The idea is like, I made it up in my head, that's why you don't get it. I have to give you more, right, along the way.
Yes.
You brought up soft skills versus hard skills. This is a great, I love to talk about this topic because, again, just from a growth perspective, I was at a point where it was a lot of like, I would step on you. Like I would step on you just to get over it. Like I'm gonna
tell me more. What do you mean?
Like at the end of the day, it was cutthroat. Like it was straight cutthroat. Like if I was going for a contract, I was like, it's cutthroat. Like I'm gonna go in, I'll step on your head just to get to where I need to get to, right? But then I realized like that only has a shelf life of so long. Okay, so through COVID, I think soft skills started to develop. My daughter all of a sudden was like, why are you should probably not do that way. And I'm like, what do you mean? So I started to kind of understand empathy a little bit of this kindness. And I think Gary Vee does a lot of like kind candor.
Yes, he's
right?
awesome.
Which I think is amazing.
Yep.
And if you follow or you don't follow Gary Vee, which you must live under a rock, but if you do, he talks about this like empathy and kindness, but there's a way to do kind candor where you're candid, but you're being kind about it. And I'm like, I had to give that a shot as far as like, how do I change my voice, my reflection on listening to people more? And I have to say, I'm a believer in the soft skills 100% over the hard ones, because I think the longevity of soft, meaning kindness, from my standpoint, it probably means something different, but from my, just genuinely listening and then trying to understand. My brother and Jason Brown, they joke all the time, say that I would leave a Chris-sized hole in the wall, right? Which was just like, right, straight through. And I'll figure it out on the other side. Now I'm finding myself slowly starting to listen a way more to understand. And so instead of that knee-jerk decision of an idea, it was like, okay, I'm going to give that a couple days. Think it through. Like, do you find that is a soft skill on that side? Like just listening is a soft skill versus like not?
Yeah.
Like what would define soft versus hard skill for you?
Yeah. So first I'll share too. You said Gary Vee. Brene Brown is also one, and her style is clear as kind.
Okay.
So like being clear is actually being very kind to someone too.
Yes.
Right? Because how many times do we go around the problem or we aren't clear ourselves?
Yeah.
So, and I've been there, right? Where I'm trying to explain something, but then they look at me and I'm like, yeah, I'm not even making sense to myself. Right. And so like, how can you like backtrack that a little bit and work on those things? And so that takes a lot of energy. Right.
Yeah.
But to your point, so is soft skill. So hard skill for me is actually like, what's the job requirement? So like, I think about what you do, like, with just like your job in general, like that's something that I can't do, right? Like there's certain hard skills that people have within their job that no one else can do. Soft skills though is communication, it's empathy, it's listening. Active listening is like one of the biggest game changers that I see in leadership, as well as self-awareness. Like, do you get defensive when you hear feedback? How do you take feedback? How are you having a conversation where you're hearing all sides, even when you already have a decision made up in your mind, right? Like, I already have those. Like, I'm already like ready to tell them like what I think the answer.
I've been there a lot. I'm like, that has been my tough one. I'm already there, but I'm going to listen.
Yes.
Every now and then I'm like, really? Maybe I should just give me an extra day. But like, I'm there. But I used to just be like, that's the answer.
Yes.
Now I'm like, let me hear it out. Let me figure it out. If maybe there's something I'm missing, but like that was a switch. That's a hard thing to think through when you're like trained to like in your mind to go one way.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I think too, like we're trained by past leaders. We're trained by past experiences, and then we're trying to switch into new ones, or we're trying to change our mindset. It is a ton of work. So like I tell anybody that I work with, it's not easy to make these changes. You're not going to see them overnight. Soft skills just don't work that way. Like I still work on my communication style whenever I get a new employee, because I'm trying to make sure like, how do they feel? Are they getting everything that needs to be taught? And then how am I showing up as a leader? Because every person kind of needs it a little bit different.
Yeah. No, it's funny. My daughter says that I'm the most humble, prideful man she knows, like complete opposites of like, you're the most humble person to tell you that you're humble that I've ever met. So I always joke about that. And I'm like, all right, I get what you're saying. So So there's, and it's like, it's a recent thing for me to understand, like, again, we always joke and say, yeah, his heart's black and tiny, but it beats. But I'm like, not really. Like, it's pretty big. It's just, I don't let people see it that often.
Yeah.
Right? And
so why not?
I don't know. It's like, that's the hard part. That's the hard skill where I'm like, no, you can't do that. And I've realized the more that I'm actually vulnerable in that situation where it's like, oh, I'll have that conversation about that and soft skill around listening, then I'm always like, well, that was so much better. Like, I enjoyed it better than just, being the hard ass or being the one that's like, I don't do that. I have no emotions, robot, you know what I mean? And it's like, it just, it hasn't worked. But when I got that position back in 2016, 17, I had no idea that was even part of the job. I feel like most of the job is executing. Like, it's like this different, like I thought like, oh, you run the business, you do all this stuff. You do, but it's not even close to that. It's like trying to paint the vision and executively say like, hey, I'm making sure that it's running, but I think I deal more with internal people, like the things that are happening, trying to solve problems, than I do actually like business stuff. You know what I mean? And it's just, that's been an interesting thing. Do you find in leaders that like the ones that are being successful and the ones that you see that are continuing to grow are investing in the soft skills more these days? Like, you think that's probably one
So
that's...
I'm going to go back to one thing that you said before I answer that question. So I think a lot of leaders don't understand that then you have to give away the tacticals.
Yeah.
And that's difficult.
Yeah.
That's like difficult for people because you're used to doing.
Yeah.
And now you lead people to do.
Yes.
And that is a very different skill set because I can tell you exactly what needs to get done because I've done it.
Yeah.
And it's in my brain. But now you're leading someone else to delegate to do that.
Yeah.
And that's a skill set in itself that, like, I think whenever I work with a leader who is struggling to move it to the next level, that's the one thing I have to talk about is like, okay, how are you already delegating? How are you holding on to things, right?
Yeah.
But yes, any leader I think that starts to invest in themselves is extremely well off more than someone that doesn't. And I'll say this, it's because they're realizing what are the things that they need to grow in to get to the next level. It also helps when they have people around them that are like, hey, like, you didn't have a lot of self-awareness around the situation, but that person that is listening, taking it in, being able to filter between opinions and actual things that they need to grow in, and then being able to say, I need to work on this if I'm going to start to lead people or be the lead of this project or these types of things, because I think it's very easy. And I've been there where I was like, well, I've been told I'm a leader. So like, I know how to lead.
I believe it.
I think it became because I was loud.
Yeah.
Right? Like I took command of the room. And so those were leadership skills that people saw. But leadership skills are a lot more of like, are you sitting down and asking someone how they are? Yeah. Like, are you sitting back and listening versus being like, well, I can tell you exactly what to do. Yeah. Right? All of those things that are really tough. Yeah. So I'm just going to be honest. Like, those are tough for people. Like,
so hard.
It is really tough when you are like, but I just, especially as an entrepreneur, because you've had to do all the roles.
Yeah.
And so I would say, yes, the investment that it is worth every dollar I say. And I've had coaches, I've had 4 over my career. Yeah. And I think I talk to my coach weekly, to be honest. And I'll just, and I coach. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that I don't have my own coach because I still have to grow too.
Yeah, you still have to grow
I always be like, okay, it's time to coach me because I can't coach myself, right? Like I need someone to do it for me. Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure too, like with everybody that you're coaching, you're learning different scenarios from one person to another so you meet with somebody and you hear the scenario, maybe that hasn't come up. You're coaching them through it. Now all of a sudden you have another client and you're like, well, I can compare now because I had this situation. So you're learning from everybody that you're doing. But then to coach yourself, it's probably, I need to go outside. It's like the therapist that has to go outside and be like, I need therapy for being a therapist, right? Like you have to understand that and coach a little bit. Yeah. And I have the same thing. I have a mentor that I call on a pretty regular basis, just on here's where I think we should go. Here's the direction. And like, I'm not necessarily asking him to say, you need to do X, Y, Z, but maybe there's a comparison in there that is like, well, you know what? When I was in a situation similar, here's how I did it. You choose to do what you want to do, but here's how I did it. It just gives you a second opinion. And then obviously working with you and coaching through certain things is like, all right, here's what I want to say. How do I say that without like blowing up everything? Like these are the things that I want to talk about. Yes. And there's a method around it, right? Mm-hmm. So let's go back. You start the company, you're about to do some tequila shots, and you're like, I got $25. I got to do this. take the part-time job, start to build it. What's the first thing that happens that you go, now I'm full-time? Like, is there a client that comes on? Is there somebody that said, I believe in you, I'll give you a shot? Like, how do you get to that first one?
Yeah. So I would say for our nonprofit, or it was for the nonprofit at least, it was a moment where we held our first fundraiser that I've ever had. And we had a father-daughter event. Okay. Actually, we taught dads how to communicate with their daughters, because that was something that just wasn't talked about, right? Like, it's always, how do moms work with daughters? And I have a dad that I'm very close with. And I remember, like, my teenage years, we did not communicate at all, right? And so I really wanted that to be the stepping stone. So we found a sponsor, we got some grant funding, we got to see how that grew. Okay. And then someone's like, hey, I want you to come do this workshop. Hey, I want you to come do this workshop. And during that time, I had built my curriculum. So I was watching what I was doing, and it just kind of became this impact where, honestly, our first year, I think I did 10 programs. I do between 50 and 60 a year now. Wow, that's awesome. And so it's like completely transformed how I do things. And for coaching, I remember getting my first coaching client, and that was a pivotal moment too. I remember sitting in my husband now, but he was just my boyfriend at the time's driveway, and getting a phone call that was like, hey, we'd like to hire you contract wise to do, I think I had 8 clients at that time from their company. And I just remember that moment being like, can I do this? Even though I was trained all of this kind of stuff, because I had been coaching before, but not a bigger client. And I immediately, the yes came out of my mouth. And ever since then, like, the yeses came out of my mouth, because I realized, like, your zone of genius. Like, that's my zone of genius, is coaching, you know? And I'm big on, like, don't focus on the zones that you're not good at. Go deep into the areas that you're good at. And so that was another pivotal moment.
So zone of genius. So I've not heard that, which is great.
Oh yeah. You have to listen to one of my podcasts. I talk about it.
That one I'm going to definitely dive into and add that to our next therapy session. Our coaching session, sorry. But the zone of genius, because so I've heard, and I've equated niche hopping, which I feel like is the opposite of obviously zone. So what you're saying, zone of genius, is when you're in it, if I'm taking this right, this is where you're good. Stay there. Right? I mean, in short words.
So there's a zone of incompetency. So, like, that's the zone that you're, like, really not good at. So like me, accounting, don't put me in that. Like, I should not focus my time there, because it takes me 20 times more energy. Zone of competency means that I'm good at it, but that doesn't mean that I should be spending my time there. So for me, that would be marketing. I'm good at marketing. I went to school for marketing. But if you were to ask me to do it, I can do it. But I'm not, my energy isn't up. Zone of genius means, like, don't bother me, anybody. I'm fully focused. Zone in, and I can't wait to do it again. Right? Those are the things too, where, like, if we're watching TV at night and an idea comes, I'm zoned in, because it's my zone of genius, right?
Yeah, it's funny.
It drives my husband probably insane. I'll be like, can we just, like, I'm just going to work for 2 hours while we're watching TV, because it zones in. And so I tell people, when you can be in your zone of genius, like, it is a game changer, because you are so much more alive when you're doing that.
I love that. I love that saying, you're so much more alive, obviously, because that's what probably makes you be alive. It's your BeAlive moment,
for real,
right? Which is that.
For real.
And I'm so going to use that when my daughter and my wife are like, what are you doing? I'm like, I am in my zone of genius right now. Back away.
Sorry,
folks.
Katie.
Yes, I'm in the zone of genius at this moment.
Yes.
So going back to what I was saying about the niche hopping. I think, have you recognized this as a problem with, like, young entrepreneurs, which is they do something, they're like, I have a direction, I'm going. I get there, it gets hard. They go, I'm going this direction now. Versus, like, that extra, like, I'm going to go through that. I think it took me a while to realize, stop when it gets hard, jumping to the next thing, and just push through. And once we did that, or I thought about that, I think our game changed a little bit, because it was like, I felt like I was just hopping, right? It was like, well, so we're going to go down this way, we're going to sell films, and then we're going to sell this, and then, oh, well, that's really, really hard. Now there's evolution of a business, which is not hopping, and sometimes it's hard to decipher. Between the two of, like, am I shifting business models, or am I continuing to push forward? But I do think there's something about finding that zone, and sometimes that requires, like, you to hop. Right?
Yes. So I'll share few different things that I see. And this is something that I'll say, like, for me, because I had so many ideas, I went wide, not deeper.
Okay.
So that was actually a struggle I had my first year, and my mentor sat me down. He goes, you have 20 programs.
Yeah.
How are you ever going to be good at something? Right? So, like, at least for me, because I was by myself trying to build all these things. And so how are you going to make a name for yourself? And so we niched it down to, I think I have 5 now.
Yeah.
Right. Like big difference.
Yeah,
right. And, but like, it
difference.
took me a while to be able to be okay with that. So I think I see that sometimes with entrepreneurs. I see the hopping because being uncomfortable. And I always say when you get uncomfortable, you have to go deeper.
Yeah.
But if you would have asked me that 10 years ago, I'd have been like, yeah, that's uncomfortable. Like, I'm good, right? I already have enough uncomfortable going on in my life, right?
I don't need another one.
So I just want something like if someone's like, hey, Lisa, would you do this for me? Yeah, sure. And then I'm like, well, maybe that's a niche that I should build because I got asked to do it, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And that is something that I had to work on where you go back to internally. You do that reflection of like, do I really want to do that or am I just chasing money?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big thing, I think, with entrepreneurs in the beginning.
It is.
Because in some cases, you're chasing money out of necessity.
Yep.
So you are going like, okay, someone's willing to pay me for that.
Yes.
But then you realize like along the way, are they asking me to pay me for that because I have a skill that actually can do that? Or was that just a fluke thing? Or I just happen to go down that route? And that sometimes can be very, very hard. So you're chasing money in the beginning because you need to pay the bills, you need to pay the rent.
Yep.
Then you get confidence of what you really do. And then it's a matter of like zoning in and going deep. And that's sometimes if you don't do that, right, you find that like everybody's just continually chasing the ball. And I think the hardest thing I had to learn, I would say, is to say no. Mm-hmm. The first time I said no to a client, and it was a large dollar amount, and it just didn't fit. But to say no, I was like, holy shit. I'm saying no, and this is like a bit like that's money right there that could be for a long time, but I'm saying no, we're not doing it because it's not what we do. Yeah. Holy shit, that was like,
oh, that's tough.
That's a big decision as an entrepreneur to try and navigate through those waters.
Yes, and I'll tell anybody like in the beginning you won't say no.
Yeah, you won't.
Like you won't because you also want to put food on your table and pay your mortgage and pay your people, right?
Absolutely.
But once you get to the point where you're like, that's not fair to my team either, right? Like if I came to my team and said we were doing X and they're like, what? We've never done that. I don't think the model wouldn't have been good. And to your point, like the dollar amount wouldn't have mattered because it would have caused all this stress that didn't need to happen, you know?
In the beginning, we were doing films. We were doing ministry films. We were doing outdoor hunting films. We were doing outdoor hunting ministry films. We were doing stuff that was like, sustainability. It was like whatever we could do with, and I always justified it to myself by it's production. It's production.
Yes.
It's production.
Yes.
It's the thing.
Yes.
It's the production.
Yeah.
But then it's like, do we know anything about these types of things? And that just took a while. But then once you get that break, it's like, stop doing the things that you were taking the money for. Yeah. But holy smokes, that's hard.
It is.
And I'm already crazy enough. The team already thinks I'm nuts. I guarantee it around like, hey, here he comes again. And so
exactly.
Here he comes. So to have like all of these other things on top of it where it's like, I'll never forget there was a video one time that was like this music video to a tune for this one client. And I remember watching it going, so this is what we do now. Like I was like almost embarrassed, like, really? Like it really came to this? We're going to say no from now on. Like it was just like a moment where I was like, come on, this isn't what I signed up for.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But we took the money.
Yeah, I know you did it, but now you won't anymore. Yeah, exactly. And I think any entrepreneur has to get to that point, and not even like when I do coaching, like there's finance coaches out there, there's infertility coaches out there, there's like all these different types of coaches. I chose business and life because I can coach those and that's what I feel really proud of. Yeah. But like had someone said like, Lisa, will you coach me financially? Like that's not my wheelhouse, right? Like I could have said yes and been like, yeah, I'll figure this out. But I also have integrity and a code of ethics I have to stick to as a coach, right? Like these are other things too that I don't think people see when it comes to coaching, like how much of a work we had to go into. Like we had to take exams. We had to take verbal exams. Oh, wow. Like I had to verbally coach and get basically graded.
Judged and
but I think that honestly I'm so grateful for that because now I have all that credibility to back up what I do had I not done that stuff,
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. One of the things you mentioned earlier as a skill set was confidence. And obviously you have the confidence podcast and confidence is a big thing. When you're working with entrepreneurs coming in, like or anybody, business coach, obviously you do a lot of keynote speaking and the things that you do. You're confident. Were you always confident? Or is it something that you had to grow into? Like, I know you're a leader. I'm loud.
Yeah.
Loud is different than confident.
Totally.
And I learned that throughout this time. But like, have you always been confident or is it something you had to lean into?
Yeah, so I would say when it came to certain skill sets, I sucked with confidence. Like point blank, I would be the one hiding in the corner or just kind of like unsure of myself, or I might act confident in front of people, but at home I was crying. I was like thinking, like getting into my head, all of these types of things. And it was usually around a skill set. So I always say confidence doesn't have anything to do with your worth. That's self-esteem. Confidence is all about your skills and your talents.
Okay.
So like for me, when like, let's say coming right out of college fresh, taking a communication job in a corporation, I didn't know crap. Like you think you do because you're taught some things in school. So I think that like really took my confidence down a certain level. And then I also had culture shock. They moved me to Philly and Texas. Like I had to learn, I had to have confidence in myself of like, can I talk to strangers? Can I like do all these like things? And so I wasn't always confident. And that's actually why I built all the companies that I've built, because I want people to have those skills. And I think everybody, the cool thing is everybody's really unique and everybody's like in their own skill set, but you have to bring that out in that person, because once someone's confident, like, whew, they're just incredible human beings.
They change, right?
They
completely.
Totally do. And I changed.
Yeah, I did too.
You know?
100%.
So I wasn't always, and I still think like I was at something the other day where I was keynoting and I watched 5 leaders in the back who are also all keynoters. And I was like, oh my God, how did I get invited to this? I had that imposter syndrome. And then once I started, it didn't matter anymore, but I had to have that moment. And I remember I'm big on, after you do something that you love, reflect on it. And I remember being like, wow, like I've come this far and I still had that moment. So it kind of humbled me, right? But it also reminded me like, wow, I'm in a room with all these people. Like that's actually great to know that my skill set, other people see my skill set like that. But when do you start to believe that yourself? Right? That's the other piece that's important.
And breaking all the rules, you and I have talked about that a lot with me, as I have a hard time understanding like that self-worth of like, oh yeah, you know, I did something cool the other day, really good, or I got recognized for the Rising Star Award or this stuff. And like, I believe it. I'm like, this is amazing. But I'm like, why am I here? Why am I literally on this stage? Like, I'm just this guy who does this thing and I love to do, and then it's like, but it's trying to understand that confidence. And then I would say like, for me, like, again, going back for just kind of comparing the two, when you're talking about keynote speaking, a lot of people thought because I was on camera, they're like, well, you're on camera all the time, you can talk. And I'm like, you don't understand. It's a camera. It doesn't talk back. Like you see me on television, okay? That doesn't mean I'm good in front of a crowd. That just means that you're watching me in front of millions, but I'm not seeing those millions. You know what I mean? Like those people, I'm not seeing you. I'm seeing the one guy standing there with a camera. So it's not the same. And that first time I ever did it, I just remember going down, I was doing an insurance. They asked me to do this insurance thing. And I went down there and Mike Singletary was the closer, but Oz the Mentalist was the opener. And also the guy from Fubu, the shark. What's his name? What's the guy's name from Shark Tank? No, the Fubu guy. You know what I'm talking about? Anyway, sorry, he's such an amazing entrepreneur, and I'm just blanking on his name. He's one of the sharks. Kevin O'Leary. Damon John.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so imagine this lineup.
Oh my gosh, Chris.
Imagine
that's
this
awesome.
lineup. Okay, so Oz the Mentalist comes on and sets the stage for the crowd. Then me. How I got in this order of events, I have no idea. That's him, Damon John. Yeah, he did.
Dang.
Yeah, he like, so this guy is coming on after me. And I'm like, wait, what is happening right now? So you want to talk about a moment of like, zero confidence. I'm like, what am I going to do? And I was standing backstage. Mike Singletary was back there. He's a football player, you know, and he's a big guy, and he's got his rings on. He's like Super Bowl. I look over Damon John. He's obviously a shark, and he does all this stuff. I look at Oz the Mentalist, who's doing tricks everywhere, and it's just like unbelievable mental mind game. And then I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, oh my God, why am I here? And then I looked around the room and I was like, but I am the only one that died and came back, and I'm the only one that has this story. And I had to start talking myself into, you're okay to be here. Even though it might be way smaller than these guys, maybe one day someone will be sitting in my position and being like, wow, I can't believe he, you know what I mean? And it was like just a surreal moment of confidence, right? And I think a lot of it is talking yourself into it, which I struggled with for a long time. So, and I'm assuming, did you struggle with that in the beginning too? Of just like, this is it?
I think in the beginning, like, it's very easy to also get the cockiness of like, you know, like pompous a little bit. Like, but I would say for me, I think in the beginning it was just I rehearsed a crap ton. Right before, like I like just like all those types of things because I needed to build those reps. So like you work out, I work out. We know you don't build muscle without reps. It's the same thing with confidence. You don't gain confidence without reps. So if anybody's thinking like you're going to get it overnight, you're not. Like that's just not how it works.
Perfect.
And so like I think back to my first keynote. Oh man, those poor people. Like to be honest, right? Like I probably
totally
inspired someone and like all that stuff. But like my confidence now is like completely different. I think back to what we also said, like I only talk about certain things now. I don't, if someone said like go talk about X and like it was not my wheelhouse, I say no now. In the past I'd be like anything because I was just trying to figure it out. But when I'm in rooms with people that I admire, like that for a while scared me. But now I think it still does. And I think a little bit of scared mindset helps a little bit because then you talk yourself through it and then you want to be the best. But I think now it's like, I finally am getting to like where I wanted to be. And then you like visualize, which is back to celebration, is like you have to celebrate that moment because you wanted to be there. Right? Like you wanted to be there. And as an entrepreneur, that's really tough because you're always chasing the next carrot, I would say, right? What's the next thing? And like, I thought about this the other day of like my first check, my first donation that I got for a nonprofit. And it was probably like $20, being honest, like from a donor. And now like it's completely different. And it's just funny to think like that was my world. Like but I didn't know anything different. And so where I am today, I'm like, I should be proud. And I am proud, but like you forget to celebrate that because you're celebrating everybody else's successes.
So I that's a great point is like stop and, you know, Zach, who's our president, chief content officer, and we've talked about this. Zach has he's always said we have to look at the forest in the tree. Sometimes it gets lost, and we do because there's wins that we don't celebrate because so you bring up I'm going to back up for just a second because when you were talking about the $20 donor, a win of the size that like we may have just had a week ago would have been the world 5 years ago. Like literally would have been the world 5 years ago. And it becomes the norm a little bit because it's a big win and it's a large sum. It's all the stuff, but it kind of is like, okay, like I just signed that and it's a 6-figure contract and you move on. How do you keep yourself grounded to be like, remember that's a 6-figure thing. That is a 7-figure, like the things that happen. I'm like, we just sign it and we move. And like in passing, I'm like, oh, by the way, I signed this yesterday and we have a conversation. It's like, oh, nice. How do you like keep grounded to be like, realize that's a really big thing still. You know what I mean?
Totally. Well, I think the other thing too is like you have to remind yourself is it might not be a quote unquote big deal to you, but it is for people that are brand new for your company.
Yeah, that's very true.
Right? Because like if my boss did something like that, I'd be like, holy crap, we are doing it, right?
We're getting
but like for you, you're like, that's a Tuesday, right? And so that's not like, that's not normal for a lot of people. But you also were at a point where like you didn't have that. And so then you had your win. So I always say, the easiest way to celebrate is by putting it on your calendar. I know that's because people like you and like myself who just move on with the day is putting it on your calendar and saying like, okay, let's go for a drink or let's however you want to celebrate. Like or just like before a huddle, like saying to people like, holy crap, guys, like, let's just take 5 minutes to give high fives. Like something as simple as that is like really important. It's something that I'm still working on, to be honest with you. Like I can say that you have to do those things, but like,
then you
I'm still working on it, you know, because I think too, it's like, oh, well, now I want us to get X. And it's like, but that's like not what everybody else is seeing. Right.
I know exactly. So I had this bottle of wine. That was a great bottle of wine, and I made a bet with, well, not really a bet, but just a pact with my wife, and I was like, when we have a good win, we're gonna drink this. It just kept becoming the next. Well, there was a good win, but there's this other thing that would be good to drink it. That would be good to drink it then. Like we'll sit down and it just like kept going. So this like 2013 bottle that is now a 2025 was like just kept getting pushed out. And I remember, to your point, you put it on the calendar, like making it a point and being like, I'm opening the son of a bitch. I'm opening it right now. I'm going down. It was Christmas time, or no, it was at our anniversary, I think. It was our 20-year anniversary. And I was like, I'm going downstairs. I'm getting the bottle. We're opening. We're drinking it, because there's always going to be the next thing. And if we don't stop for just a second, put it on the calendar, go downstairs, get that thing it's got dust on it.
Yeah.
Open it up and just celebrate it for a minute. And I remember sitting there going, this is a damn good bottle of wine. And then you reflect. I think it's super important to think back on all the stuff, but then never lose the edge, but always lean in to the things that you've done so far and be like, man, there is a lot of wins, because the negative outweighs the positive so much that imposter syndrome starts to creep back in, and you're like, can I even do this? Can I even do this? And then you go, well, I guess I don't have a choice, right?
Yes.
I'm going to go do it.
Yeah.
So.
Or you're always thinking out, what's the next 6 months? So you had a win, but you're like, well, next month we have to get this win to keep XYZ going, right? Yeah. And so, I agree. I don't think enough leaders celebrate, to be honest with you, even the little things, because I think as a leader, you have to be part of that momentum for a staff member as well, right? And you need those people in your life, right? I actually just recently started to call people from 10 years ago who supported me and just said thank you, because you did X for me. And they were like, we've seen your growth, but it's so great that you recognize that you were I had a first donor, a first client, people like that. I've called them now and they've seen our growth, but it actually just helps them then be also proud of how,
that's really cool.
I didn't do it myself.
Yeah.
I know people say self-made, but I'm not self-made.
No.
Right? I've had the people that listen to me cry, listen to me say I'm going to quit, all those things.
Oh, I've had the phone calls where I'm like, this is going to suck for you, because I'm about to unleash on you, and you're going to listen to those things. And it's like, well, what do you want out of it? Nothing. I just need you to listen for a second. And then, you're just trying to get it off your chest, and you're like, oh, I just feel so much better just getting it out. And then, and it does bring clarity once you get it out. I think you're like, oh, I think I just figured out my own problem, and I've got certain friends like that where I just am like, I'm going to call and vent. And by the time the conversation's over, I'll probably figure out the answer to myself. And then, again, the dinner table at my house is always an interesting scenario. And I've learned to calm that down too now. I understand now. I'm like, okay, even my daughter's like, and she's giving me business advice at 18, with that one merger and acquisition, I'm like, oh, I think I talk about this too much. If you're having this conversation.
And that's tough. Honestly, I know people always ask entrepreneurs, how do you do work-life balance? And I always say, every entrepreneur's got to be a little bit different, but I bring work home. It's just something that I do. My husband, I've married someone who gets that. It's just something now that I'm working on, is doing less of that. But to any entrepreneur that's out there, that's all they talk about. It's okay for a while. Right? Just find the people that want to listen. And then also know, read the room. When to
read
not.
the room. That's a good thing. Because I would say, look, business is it's not unlike sports. I love it.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
Like a sports team.
Yes.
So when I'm talking about it, I'm genuinely super excited and interested to do it. So there's nothing wrong with it. People are like, you're always talking about work. I'm like, no, I'm always talking about what I love, which is business. And I'm trying to figure out from that person what they're doing. So there is this sense of it's no different than you love the Steelers and I love the Lions. And this is we're fighting about, no, I'm like, your business does this. And so tell me about it's the same kind of scenario. And I feel like it's okay. But there is a chance where you read the room. Sports is always acceptable in the room because everyone's always like, oh, but then it's like, oh, he's talking about work again.
I know, but great point to say, I always want to know, how did you switch that, right? I've had to work on, for me, not coaching at home. My husband will say you're coaching me. And I'm like, oh, sorry, you caught that. So now my friends catch that. Sometimes they'll actually call me now and say I just need a coaching session. So that's cool. But there are moments where it's don't coach me. So I've had to ask my husband, can I coach you? Or we just doing husband wife.
We're doing the husband wife thing.
Exactly.
Well, I've met your husband. He's a great guy. We were at a party together. It was, I think, no offense, ladies, but we were the youngest people there.
Yes, you were. You were.
And it was great to sit and have a conversation and chat with him for a bit. He was great. We got along because I was looked around the room and I'm like, all right, tats and a guy that I can hang out with. I'm like, perfect. There it is.
Around my age, all the things.
All the things just kind of lined up. And I was like, I think I'm going to go chat with that guy for a bit. And I think, so that it just brings me to another part of this confidence thing is introvert, extrovert, and then there is a thing, the ambivert, right? Which is a lot of people think because we're loud, or people like us are loud
Yeah.
and whatever, that I'm an extrovert, or that I'll speak for myself right now.
Yes.
But in reality, I'm not. Like, I really like time by myself. I like thrive on time by myself. But it took me a really long time to get comfortable with myself, to spend time with myself. But now it's like, I love my girls, but time by myself is huge. So when I go out and I get excited about going out if it's my people.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So it's like, if it's my people and and I know things, I'm all in. Like, I know the people in the room. Like, we're gonna have fun. Like, we're gonna most likely get buzzed up and drunk. We're gonna have a great time, and I'm gonna get to know you, and we're gonna have all the fun times.
Yes.
Right? If I don't know the room, that's where it becomes that fight for me.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And do you run into that a lot, of like confidence versus like put in the right scenario?
Yeah. Well, I'll share. I married an introvert.
Yeah.
So like, and he's great with conversation, but like, I'm an extrovert in both areas, right?
Okay.
Like, I'm just like,
Yeah.
but I keynote, I like do all this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I want to hear everybody's life stories. Not everybody wants to share their life stories with me, but I like to go deep with
Yeah.
people. So I'm not a surface level person.
Yeah.
So I think I'm an extrovert in those standpoints just in general, but I've had to work on like, I cannot even preach how much I love my alone time. So like, my husband has a unique job where he's only home every other month.
Yeah.
And so the last 2 days of him leaving, I'm like sad, gonna miss you. Can't wait for my free day.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
wait to like have my
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's like, also when you said like, you want your alone time, I think that's really great for an entrepreneur, because that's my self-reflection time too,
yeah.
right?
Big
Like,
time.
that's my decompressing. That's me being able to think through different scenarios of maybe something that happened, like things like that. And when you're always on,
Yep.
you don't get to really just chill
Yes.
for a second. And so, like, I love my alone time. Like, we're going to the UP here soon, me and my husband, and I'm like, already like, I think I'm gonna go on a hike by myself, right? Like, I love you, but like, I need a moment, you know? And so I think that that's just like the healthy piece too, is like, people are scared to do those things, but when you look internally and just like start to know yourself more, it's just like the best thing once you love being with yourself.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
finding that mental place as a business, as an entrepreneur, as a leader, as all that thing, like finding that place you can go.
Yes.
Like working out, I used to work out like all the time. It was like, oh, how much weight can I push? Oh, all this stuff. Now, like, and I know people are going to be like, hey, trendy, whatever. Sauna in the morning, cold plunge, mental, like literal mental time. Shoot my bow. My bow is a very mental state for me. Like, I'll shoot my bow 15 times, 16, 20 times, whatever it is. Just getting kind of, and then it's like, now it's daylight, right? So now it's like the world is starting, but I've had this time prior to going out there, and I'm like, okay. And then I'll sit down with all the problems. And I look at all the problems, and you have to remind yourself, and I heard this once, I think it was Jocko or somebody, one of these guys said, good. Like, I have these problems, and I'll tell myself, good.
Love.
Like, I got this problem, good. That means go figure it out. Go fix whatever it is. And so it's like a mental amp up, like in the morning, right?
Yes.
And so it's like, but you have to find that zone,
Yes.
I would imagine, as a leader, to be comfortable with your own self first.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And find that mental. I had never worked on mental health, ever. Like, as far as like, that goes. I was always like, run and gun. And now I'm starting to find myself reading, slowing down, cold plunge, mental stuff, not like, I'm going to go get, and I've never felt better.
Well, and for me, honestly, my turning point was I landed myself on bed rest.
Oh.
From not taking care of myself.
Yeah.
Literally
so you actually took it to the exhaustion.
Literally, I took it to the point where like I could fake it for so long. I remember getting sweats at work.
Yeah.
Like cold sweats. This is before I built a mental well-being and confidence company. This is before all of that.
This is why. It's coming back around full circle.
Yeah. And then I had all these moments where I was like, I never want to feel this way again.
Yeah.
And so I see a lot of leaders just in general, we burn ourselves out because we're not celebrating, we're not taking those moments, and we cut the corners.
Yeah.
Then we get nasty with clients. We don't mean to, it's just we're tired, right?
Exhausted.
And so when you take that time, oh my goodness, I can't tell anybody enough, like you're the best person in the world for people. It's actually called, there's actually science behind it that's called the me, we, us.
Okay.
And it's all about, you have to start with you, taking care of yourself, and
Yeah.
then you can help the we, which is your company, and then the us is with your community.
There
So, we always say we can help those around us, but then we get resentful. because they're give.
Yep.
Like and then they're taking, and you're not focusing on yourself. So the more that you can do those things, and like my habits have changed over the years.
Sure.
I used to work out every morning. Now I do it at night.
Yeah.
Like, right. Like I would love if we had a sauna. It's something we're working on in our household.
I just got one of those Amazon guys that pops up, and it's like $100 on it. I got it. Actually, I bought 2 because I broke the first one. But
okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, I'm hard on shit.
We need to get on those things.
But I got it, and it works. It takes 15 minutes to turn on in the morning.
Okay.
And it's like a thermo whatever, like a tent, right? It's in my barn. Takes 15 minutes to start the steam, which means I have 15 minutes to stretch, do some sort of cardio, like, just some sort of like calisthenic whatever, mentally zone, get in there. Now I've got 15 minutes in a box. You can't use your phone. They give you this little plastic thing that you can put your phone in, but let's be honest, like I'm in there for a reason.
Yes, exactly.
So 20 minutes of just sweating. Well, what am I going to do? I have nowhere to go. So it's like, I guess I got to think about the things, right? So that's what's like started. And I'm like, oh my God, for $149, that's the best thing I've ever done. I get out, I shock the shit out of my system with a 30-degree cold plunge. And then I'm like, now I'm ready to go. Like I can conquer the world. I feel better doing that than I did doing an hour workout. And again, I still do those things in the week. I still do them, but it's just not as frequent as I used to because I found this new routine that has helped me mentally. And that's where I'm at right now, is trying to figure that out. And boy, what a journey. But you do change your habits. Yeah. Like my habits are changing, but they're evolving. But I think if you don't, you're going to get smoked. Like if you don't evolve and adapt your habits, then you just find yourself in a spin cycle, which I've been in. And so again, it goes back to like what you've built from a coaching standpoint, but it's from learning, it's from actually going through it. Yes. And it's imperative. Like you have to in order to do it. Right?
Yeah. Well, and I think if someone came to me and they had like a issue, and I mean, not that I can relate to everything, but for the most part, I'm like, yep. Like sometimes I joke, like I get mirrored sometimes in a coaching session where I'm just like, oh, needed to coach myself on that. That's embarrassing, right? But it's those are moments too. But I think that's the cool thing about the coaching aspect that I love is like, we all have the answers inside ourselves. Yeah. It's just sometimes we need that person on the outside to coach us through it, give different perspectives on how to handle different situations. Yeah. And that's the role of a coach, right? Like, I think that's the cool thing.
No, well, you've done an amazing job from that standpoint with our business, which is exciting. Yeah. So okay, let's 2 more quick things for you. Yeah, you're good. So as a female, being in the business world, do you have any advice for female entrepreneurs that are getting into it that are like, let's go? Like, is I mean, obviously being a male, is it like, what's the point of view from a female side? Was there trials and tribulations you didn't anticipate and that you're continuing to do? Because I'd love to hear from that aspect.
So I'm 34. Yep. I started when I was 22, but really 29 was my year. Yep. Being a young female, people do not take you seriously for a while. Remember, I was going after a coaching gig to work with a certain level of individuals, and this was years ago, but I was told I was too young. Yeah. And I was like, no, I know my skill set. I might look young, but I'm really good at what I do. So I've had to deal with like from a female perspective of like how you look, like how like all of those things I've had to deal with, a lot of those hurdles. Yeah. I think people have said like, you're doing a great job, honey. And I'm like, no, I'm really smart. Like I'm really good at what I do. And I've had to have that backing of my own confidence. So any female entrepreneur, like you have to believe in yourself. I think anybody does, but like just in general, like if I could give advice to another female. And then honestly, I found mentors, both female and male. So I would say my top 3, my top 3 mentors are all men. Yeah. Because they think differently than I do when it comes to business a little bit. I definitely have some masculine qualities. I'm trying to bring back some of my feminine ones because like, I can be direct, like I can do all of those types of things. And so I think it's important for a woman to know both of those. Like you can sell, but you can also show the empathetic side. Like it's okay to be both. Yeah. And I think sometimes women are told to choose. Yeah. Right? Yeah, that's a little bit. Yeah. And so I think to anybody for advice, it's just like taking that leap is scary, but like you have to take that chance on yourself. Yeah. And if it does, like I always say, if it doesn't work out, like you didn't fail, you literally just got redirected, and that's just part of life. So get the mentors. have a little bit more than $25 in your bank account when you start. Like, would really recommend
Yeah.
a little bit of like having
more,
a little bit more stability on that piece.
Yeah, it happens though. It happens.
It happens to all of us.
Yeah.
And then just really like knowing that like you will have more, you might have more hurdles. I just did, right? I had to be taken more seriously. And then the other thing is do not compare yourself to someone who's been in business for 20, 50 years.
Yeah.
Because I did that. And then I finally one day woke up to the fact that I'm like, they've been doing this for 20 years. Like, I think I'm doing pretty good then if like people are comparing me to them. Yeah. Like people were comparing me to people that was around for 50 years. And I'm like, guys, it's 3 years in. Yeah. Like, give me a moment.
I totally agree with that. I mean, I've sat around business tables, especially in this town. Yeah. Right. And I'm like sitting around the table, and when I first, get going, and it's intimidating. I mean, there's some really amazing business. There's some big, powerful people in this town. And I find myself at these tables. First, I don't know how I got there. Second, I'm like, wow, I'm at the table. But then I look and I go, and they are both 20 years older than I am. They've gone through, and I'm like, but I'm at the table. Yes. Like I'm still at the table, right? And so you have to have that confidence of like, yeah, they got a lot more and they're doing a lot more, but shit, I'm at the table. So like if I'm here, then we're on the right track. And maybe 20 years from now, again, there's a kid sitting at the other side of the table going like, oh shit, I'm at the table.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Totally.
And so it's like this cyclical thing that I'm like, but I guess that was one thing in the beginning. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. Quit comparing yourself to a guy that like is literally 55 years old and has sold 15 houses and all the things. And you're like, I've just bought my house. You know what I mean? And you're like, yay. And it's like, don't compare yourself. That's step number one. Yes, right? Exactly. Well, and I think too, it's like the mentor piece is important. Yeah. And just like finding out like who you are is just as important too. That's interesting because now that you say it, I have a male mentor and then yourself from, the coaching standpoint. So I do get completely different opinions. And I love that and respect that because I think that's part of the reason that, we'll go like a month, maybe two, I'll be super busy. And then I'm like, I need to have a conversation. Yes. Right. And there's been a massive thing that's going on and I need to understand how to navigate through it. And even that, a lot of times we talk through a plan that I'm like, yes, until I think about some more, you get more knowledge. And then we have another conversation and I'm like, so I didn't do that, but but it's only because of, and then it turns to another thing, right? So I think that's been super, super important.
Well, I think that's part of coaching too, is like it's a process. That's the
it's a total process. It's not like do this and you'll be fine. It's like, let's take the information I have, let me coach you on what that is and go forward. Well, as we end this thing out, I appreciate everything. Okay. So obviously your husband, you got dogs, right? Two dogs. Two dogs. Is it Jackson? And Denver.
Good job. Yeah. See, Jackson and Denver, both labs. They're my world.
I love it. Yep. So what are we doing for fun outside of business, outside of coaching? What are we doing? What are we doing for fun?
Well, did you know I thought of you before we were coming to this. I went to New Zealand. Oh yeah, we did talk about this. Yeah. Went to New Zealand.
New Zealand.
We like thrillers. Me and my husband do. I should say he likes it more. I'm working on it.
Okay. All right.
I was like to do that New Zealand. We love to just hike. That is, if me and my husband could go anywhere and just hike for a week. Yeah. We are not beach layers. Yeah. We are outdoors, just not. We are outdoors hiking. That is what we like to do for fun. Yeah. Or anything sports related. Yeah. Football is my jam. But yeah, that's what we like to do for fun. Awesome. We love to get together with friends, but honestly, if we could go somewhere and just we're going to the UP, for Michigan, and that's been that's my time.
That's your time.
That's my fun. Yeah. I think also I love to tell people that I love to work for fun, but I'm really working on outside of work. The hiking piece is what we love.
So the outdoors kind of grounds you in some aspects. That's a part I think we can all agree on. Get out there. It's Mother Nature. It's all the stuff, and you're dialed in.
And it's good for your mental health.
It's totally good for that.
Exactly.
Well, that's amazing. I love that. All right, last question. Okay. And you can take this two ways. Okay. One way is, first question, and I'll give you an alternate route. Okay. So the first question is, do you have a BeAlive moment? And as far as there was a moment that you were like, this is it. This is that heart palpable energy that I feel moment throughout your career. Okay. Or what is it that makes you BeAlive? What is BeAlive to you?
I might answer both of them.
Do it. Rock and roll.
Okay. Well, the first thing that you said before you said career, so I will say that the most heart-wrenching thing I've ever done non-career was bungee jump.
Okay.
So hands down,
can't do it. Ledges.
Literally have PTSD from it.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie, can't think about it, because I'm like, how did I ever do that? Because I never checked the cords. They checked the cords for me, but I was so blacked out that I just jumped, and I just trusted these humans to make sure that I didn't die.
Not gonna happen.
Honestly,
my hands are sweating thinking about you doing it right now. I can't stand I can't stand ledges. My brother did it one time. I literally had a heart attack. I can't stand ledges.
Yeah.
I can do heights all day. I jump on a helicopter. Cannot get on a ledge to do anything. I will literally start sweating. So bungee jump?
But I will tell you, in the air, flying, free falling into the air was the most thrilling, relaxing. I was so relaxed. I know, thrilling
from high
and
energy
relaxing.
to just I was
I'll never forget, floating and just being like, okay, this is my life right now. It was really a cool moment to just feel like you're alive.
Love that.
And then I remember kissing the floor when I got back down. Career-wise, I think it was really probably a couple years ago when I first got a keynote that I really, really wanted.
Yeah.
And it was something that I had worked really hard for. And that was a moment where I was just kind of I've made it. And I just can't wait to see what I do next. So I think that's just, I know it's very general, but I would say that was the moment.
That's when you felt the energy. You were like, I got it and I love this.
Yes. And then I talked about it for weeks, right? Because I was so proud of and I think that's the same thing with clients. When I get that thrill of watching my clients grow, because I get to watch them grow in their journey. And that's thrilling just weekly, to be honest with you. So I get to be alive all the time with that kind of stuff. And then I already forgot your second question.
The moment. Is there the BeAlive, what does it mean? What does it mean to you? Just what does it mean?
I'm going to go back to zone of genius. I would say is when you just are doing something that you're so good at that it consumes your every moment and you don't want to be anywhere else. And so for me, that's professionally, that's coaching and that's keynote speaking. When it comes to personal, that's when I'm on top of a mountain that me and my husband just climbed, and we're looking out and being holy shit, we just did that.
We just did this.
Right. With our dogs. Right. I just those are moments where I feel that's what I've been made for.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. That's a great answer. The outdoors brings us all together, and BeAlive means the same to you as it does for a lot of people. It's just that energy, that moment when you feel it, and I think that's important. Well, listen, I've appreciated your time.
This is great.
Thanks for doing this. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to check out Lisa Tarkington, I highly recommend Lisa. She's done wonders with us and our business and everything as a keynote speaker. If you want to work with her business, where can people look it up? Where can they find you?
Yeah, my website is lisatarkington.com. My nonprofit is leadconfidently.org, or just follow me on Instagram at Lisa Tarkington Official.
Yeah, and LinkedIn too. There's a lot
LinkedIn.
of great. There's a lot of great things. I love when you put out the videos on there and all the little things. So I'm always checking it out. And listen, if you're an entrepreneur and you're getting into the game and you're trying, or you're that person that has $25 in their bank account and you're deciding between tequila shots and a .org and what you want to do, there's a moment that's coming up for you that is super important. And in order for that to happen, you need to have someone like Lisa, a coach, a mentor in your life that can help. And I think it's super important. So check that out. So Lisa, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll check with you next week. And until then, go be alive.
Now I'm on the run.